All right, so welcome back into the live stream. We're going a little early today. We've got a bunch of videos coming out, so we thought we'd jump in, get into the top 20 altcoins, give you guys kind of an update of what's happening in the CPI, but also break down a couple of projects for you, that being Solana and also Cosmos, and why those two are ones to watch right now. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Techpath. Let's dive in a little deeper on where these projects are going. Just as a reminder, if you're new to our channel, maybe you're coming here for, I don't know, maybe it's cryptocurrency, maybe you're looking at Web3 and technology, kind of the innovation that's happening in the space itself. Number one thing you can do is subscribe. And also, a perfect hack for you is to jump into the Diamond Circle. You can join with our link below, and it's really easy. You'll get a couple emails a week from us. We drop news, information, some of our videos. We also do AMAs. We drop guides in there, how-tos, all that kind of stuff. And then also occasionally we'll put in additional analysis like what you're going to see today. Let's get into our first story, and that is Cosmos. Really pumping, and of course it has made the top 20 and has been climbing for a bit over the past couple of weeks, but over the last week has really started to have some interesting things happen, not only from an ecosystem standpoint, but also from a price action standpoint. But they are in the process of changing their name to Ignite, and that's coming from Tendermint. So Ignite launched Cosmos in 2017, kind of to go after the multi-chain future. Today, they're obviously transferring assets between blockchains like Ethereum and Solana. Can be done through cross-chain bridges, but basically what you're dealing with right now is when these cross-chain bridges occur, that's when we potentially see these hacked. Vitalik Buterin talked a little bit about this, along with others. So I think what Cosmos is trying to do is kind of unique and interesting. Since its launch, the network has grown to host 38 different blockchains with a combined market cap of over 122 billion. And its new tools are being used by major projects like Terra, Binance Smart Chain, even Facebook on their old Libra system was using Atom. So interesting enough in terms of just the exposure of Cosmos and what that might mean for that project, just with their expansion, the partnerships they're doing, and also just the overall approach of the ecosystem itself. Osmosis is one that's kind of interesting. So they launched their staking service to bolster a shared security in the Cosmos ecosystem. Now, this is kind of unique, and this just happened. Osmosis launched what they call superfluid staking, which will allow liquidity providers to stake LP tokens representing their assets while continuing to earn the share of trading fees. So that to me is very interesting. I like this, this term superfluid staking, but the new service will allow liquidity providers to provide Atom and Osmo to also designate their tokens to an Osmosis validator and earn staking rewards in addition to a share of trading fees from the provider itself. And then Osmo's team describes superfluid staking as pioneering reverse liquid staking by almost proof-of-stake tokens that are used in DeFi. So this, I know this gets into a little bit of a nerdiness around this. The point is the creativity that is being built in on the Cosmos ecosystem is getting pretty edgy. And I just look at where ecosystems are growing, and I'm always interested because I want to see the ecosystems that have the real edge case scenarios like what Osmosis is trying to do. What are they doing to really stretch the boundaries of finance, staking, what this could potentially mean for DeFi in the future? And here's why. When you look at different projects, there's two things that can happen. One thing is that projects can be a little bit, stale. I won't name names, but you know probably who I'm talking about. There's a handful of them out there that they don't move very quickly. The partnerships might be coming, but they can't necessarily roll out any real use case scenarios. Then you have the alternative to that, and that to me is the Cosmos ecosystem. Super edgy, sometimes a little bit too bleeding edge, because they're looking at kind of redirecting the focus of how Web3 will be built. And when I look at those kinds of things, and this is it kind of goes hand in hand with technology companies in the same way. Some technology companies do things really well, but they do it really slowly. And then you have guys that are out there just constantly updating and really pushing the edge. Someone like an NVIDIA, a good example. Something like what Apple is doing now with their silicon chips, just really pushing the edge on where they're going with chip development, and you've got Intel and even to a certain extent AMD kind of falling behind. So there's a lot of those kind of factors happening in the blockchain world as well, and I think Cosmos is that one. Osmosis also, just kind of jump over here to this additional, users no longer have to opt between backing POS blockchains, point of proof of stake, providing liquidity on the DEX, superfluid, this is going to be the advantage of it. So adding that to it, the culmination of very simple but very powerful ability to provide liquidity that you lock up in your tokens, which also what you do when you stake. So this to me, and if you look at what does this mean for the ecosystem, let me kind of just zoom up on this just right here. This is the Osmosis zone, and currently the 10th chain by TVL according to the data provided by DeFi Llama. And again, this one has come out of pretty much out of nowhere. And if you look at the projects that are in here, you've got Terra, obviously Binance Smart Chain, Fantom, even Avalanche to a certain, but Solana has slid a little bit. Tron, I don't think will hold that position as we continue to see more growth there. Matic, of course, definitely a good one. And Crow, I think, will grow as they build other aspects to their ecosystem in terms of development. But I'm really interested in Osmosis and whether or not it can hold on for growth in the future. And I'm just kind of curious because Osmosis has not been in our top 20 only a handful of times, and it made it in again to this top 20. And I'm always curious as to whether those are short-lived periods in which we see a little bit of price action or whale trading that causes some of these projects to move. We're continuing to build on our sentiment profile of analyzing that to really take a look at that and going into on-chain data to really kind of get into the behind the scenes of what that might look like if whale manipulation is occurring on projects like an Osmosis. But all that leaning in, Cosmos still, the ecosystem is the one I think that's out there to watch. So definitely a good one. Best DeFi coins to buy in 2022. This is an interesting list. You know, there's some on here that I definitely would put in my list. Lucky Block has been, you know, they've got a lot of hype, ton of hype around the DeFi community, and I think this one has just been, is it the next, you know, Aave? Is it the next, you know, because there's a little bit of flavor of the month there in DeFi, and I think that one. Could it hold? Yes, it could, but the likelihood is I think we'll continue to see more and more advancements in DeFi. My thing with DeFi is I think we're going to see some of the big guys really starting to play into this. If you look at what Celsius is doing or trying to do with DeFi, if they get scale on that and make it just easier to use for use case, remember, critical adoption or mass adoption occurs by ease of use and interesting UX, user interface. And if we find someone that kind of cracks that code, you know, these DeFi marketplaces could really be in a little bit of a trouble. Uniswap, same thing, right here, top decentralized DEX with leading DeFi coin. Then you've got Terra, of course, we've been watching that this week, just really climb up the charts. Decentraland, interesting that they chose Decentraland and not Sandbox here. Yearn, Graph, Sushi, Cosmos, rated DeFi, top DeFi coin protocol offering blockchain interoperability. And then Kyber we've reported on before as well, and then Aave coming in there at number 10. It's not a bad list. It's an interesting list. There's some things within it I like, some that I would say maybe not so much, but it definitely is one that I would take a look at. All right, so the other token that is flying, and I won't tell you what position these are in just yet. I won't sneak that in there, and that is Solana. So Solana eyeing a $150 price point with this 25% move that we've seen this week. It does put a double bottom in play. There is an analysis here that I want to show you guys. And also when you look at just Solana in general, these double bottoms typically appear at the end of a downtrend. This is something you've seen on the TA guys that talk about it. Even Evan on our team, you know, Evan talks about this a lot when we do and look at these double bottoms around these upward channel trends that occur in TA. In some cases, these things prove out, but I would say in some cases they also do not. So I would love to hear your input if you think Solana is set for a rebound. Do you think it could continue its trek back up to, say, $150, 150? And in the near future, could that happen in March or April for Solana? Rebounds and returns to the level near previous low. With bears unable to push the price new or low, the selling sentiment becomes exhausted and leading to a sharp upside retracement and a breakout move forward. So it's been painting a little bit similar pattern to what it did in January, especially after extending its rebound, which was above 25% on the week-to-date reach, which went over the $100 mark. So this is kind of what they're talking about. Let me kind of zoom up on that just a hair so you can kind of see what they're talking. Here's this first bottom, even though it's not quite a bottom, and then here's that double bottom that they keep talking about. And then right there, you've got that one pressure coming in right there on 120. And then you can kind of see what open water looks like right up there around the 140 to 170 range, which I think is what they're kind of preferring to do there. Let me jump off that one and we'll go back here. So the question is whether or not it's enough of a bullish divergence to really kind of move the price and continue to keep Solana moving. Now, when I show you the sentiment and the amplification, because when we look at sentiment with amplification on tokens, especially in the top 20, amplification is very, very important. At least when we look at them, we've been able to hit these, I would say, in the range of 70 to 80% accuracy when an amplification is showing up in a project and it's starting to match sentiment or overperform, over-index. That's when we really start to pay attention to a project, because that's usually indicating either some upward flat movement or a potential big upside. It depends on whether or not it's done it week after week. And I'm going to show you some cool tools that we use that kind of helps you look at that. Because historical, much like with TA, because you're looking on TA back in charts to see what that did when it did the last double bottom. Same kind of thing happens with sentiment. We go back 12 date periods right now. We're getting ready to change that because we're going to go with double drops of data per week. Whether we stretch that out to 24 date periods, meaning 2 times a week, or 2 times a week over 6 weeks, running that would be interesting. And one thing, if you guys want to join, because I'm starting to put together a group that are using our CPI, and it's kind of like a little private group within Twitter. Just hit me up on Twitter, just DM me, say, hey, you're a CPI user, because I get a lot of feedback on Twitter from how people are utilizing our CPI. And that's something that's good for us because it helps us improve the product and figure out things that we should be doing better, or make sure that we're doing things that will help you guys. So hit me up on Twitter on that. Let's get over to Solana, or finish up with Solana. Not only do you have the issue of Solana potentially growing in terms just on price action, now you have major moves here, and this is going into the NFT. Even though the market is cooling a little bit, as trading on and Ethereum and Solana, they both dipped, and I'm questioning whether or not we're starting to see a little bit of a cool-off period with NFTs and even with Metaverse. We just pulled a little bit of research on Google Trends, and we're seeing a little bit of a downward trend on that. Now, could we have seen just an overheated Metaverse and NFT fall in 2021, and it just, now we're kind of in this period of the honeymoon's kind of over, and could we see some stabilization and just generalized traditional growth in some of these projects, much like traditional cryptocurrency? I'm kind of curious on that. I'm curious also, what do you guys think? Do you think that we're starting to see a slowdown in Metaverse and NFTs? I'd love to see your comments in the questions over on the live chat as well. So could it be cooling? This is something that could probably push the cooling back to a little bit of heat, and that would be leaked images suggesting that OpenSea is going to add Solana-based NFT support. If that occurs, OpenSea will get a big boost, and I think this will also help Solana in general, just because of the ability to really access larger marketplaces such as OpenSea. And that's going to be a factor, I think, in any NFT project out there, no matter what you say or like about OpenSea or don't like about OpenSea. Fact is they're one of the first movers, and they're one of those projects that just, it's kind of like Ethereum. You just cannot, you can't count them out. They're going to be there. They will most likely continue to lead the trek in terms of NFTs itself. The other one here is, of course, you got MJ coming in as well. So you've got MJ Now launching the app Heir, which is dropping its first NFTs. And again, these are the kind of partnerships. Sure, some of them jump and they stay there for a while. You get a lot of juice out of it. You get a lot of new adoption because people want, now it just creates curiosity, especially from people who maybe have never invested in cryptocurrency, and they're always looking like, hey, what's beyond Bitcoin? What's beyond Ethereum? And Solana usually comes up in the conversation, probably more so than not. I'm surprised at how many people who are not in crypto actually know what Solana, just the term Solana, much less the fact that they have realized that it's an altcoin. So I'm seeing a lot more adoption in mainstream around projects like Solana. So I'm very interested in how this is going to continue to kind of grow. So I think it's a cool thing with, what's he doing here? He's got 6 rings NFT. It's going to be a public mint now live. Head to Heir app, or you can also to get yours. So that's going to be cool. We'll watch and see what this thing looks like. So there they are, the variations. Not super cool, not super inviting, but if they integrate any kind of utility with this, with MJ in any way, now we could have something very cool. Let's jump over to our poll real quick. Then we'll reveal the top 20. Let's take a look. Which top 4 coins are you feeling most bullish? Terra, okay, good. Solana right under, Cosmos 18, and Osmosis at 5%. Osmosis, as I said, is one of those that I feel like is going to be a little bit of a short-lived stint in the top 20. Again, because we get a little push, and there's other tokens that are like this that occasionally will, they'll do a blip into the top 20, but they don't hold very long. One thing that we are considering is taking a look at historical sentiment on some of these projects, so that I don't necessarily not want to get tokens into a top 20 when they get those flashes, but at the same time, that can also, in some cases, kind of indicate that that might be a project you should be watching, where maybe it's just a short-lived project. So I'm not saying that about Osmosis, but I'm just saying they were able to make a very good run at it. So let's take a look at our top 20. We'll get into the CPI dashboard and just run overall sentiment, because we just ran sentiment this, today. Remember, we drop these on Mondays and Fridays, and we just started this a couple of weeks ago. So you've got multiple scores right here, but you've got Bitcoin covering in at on Monday this week at 71.65, and on Friday holding a 70.98. So trending down for the weekend right now. Metaverse is also trending down, which that was a little bit of a surprise, because we had nothing but up for a little bit. A little bit down here. Almost everything in the market right now trending down in the overall. So there's Bitcoin, or altcoins less Bitcoin and ETH, also trending down slightly. And then there's Metaverse and gaming. And then, of course, DeFi. Again, actually a little flat right here on DeFi. That's interesting. And then, of course, we get into the top 20. You guys can also jump in when you're in the CPI, get into the top 10 cryptos. We break those out now. We're getting ready to add amplification historical for you, so you'll be able to see a lot of that starting to flow in. We've got our top 20 Metaverse, the blockchain gaming top 20, and then the low caps. Let's get over here to the top 20 altcoins. And this one, of course, was our Monday update, which we do. Just be aware also, our updates on our top 20s, because we're dropping most of our overall market and the top 10 cryptos by market cap on Mondays, to give people time to kind of digest. On Wednesdays is when we're going to start putting out our top 20 rankings. The likelihood is we're going to stay with Metaverse, altcoins, and then the gaming categories. There's 2 gaming category rankings that we do. We do a low cap, and then just gaming in general, which is anything I think above a 150. But be aware, some of those, sometimes in the low cap things, there's not enough movement, so we may not drop a top 20 on that week. So, but anyway, look for those every Wednesday. Showing our top 10. All right, so here you've got Solana kind of holding in at 73.38, and amplification still not bad for that at 74.16. And then, of course, Luna, which has been just overperforming this week, doing great. Amplification showing really tight. This tells me that we're going to see a little bit of a continued uptrend for Luna, or at least sideways. And then here's Atom. Atom could actually be one of the few tokens that continues to see some positive gains while we're seeing a downward trend in the market. And then here's Osmosis, which is an over-indexing again. And again, like I said, could be short-lived on our top 20 list because they have not made it in there very often. Avalanche has been in the top 20 for many weeks running, holding out at 74.19. Then you've got Binance, XRP. XRP good on sentiment, not great on amplification. This worries me. This could tell us that we could see a little bit of a fall off. Same thing with Arweave. Near protocol, I feel like we're going to see a little bit of a dump on Near. Oasis looks like it might hold fairly well. And then you get into Cardano, not performing tremendously. Also the same thing with Helium, not performing tremendously in amplification. FTX coming in. Chainlink, Polygon, not bad. And then Flow. Here's another one that we should be watching very closely. And then Uniswap also a watch as well. And then last, Elrond coming in at number 20, but also another one. And remember, when you're reading sentiment and when we look at sentiment and amplification, remember, it's a real simple format. The closer amplification is to the actual score of sentiment, the better the potential is for that to continue in terms of people talking about investing it, good things happening about the project, they're sharing it. Those kind of things show up in amplification, and that usually indicates price action. And price action, whether it's stability and a token not losing position as a market trends down, or if we see enough amplification over-indexing on sentiment, then we usually see the upward trends on those. So definitely jump into those if you guys have not been part of the CPI. This is something we do on an ongoing basis. We're continuing to improve it. It's only been live for 1 month. We've used it for the last year, but we've only made it available to the public for the last 30 days, so it's brand new, and it's going to continuously, right now we're on the Archimedes update, which is just our alpha update. We are going to continue to improve on the product and continue to add more and more tool sets in there. We'll do these top 20s every couple of weeks, give you guys a freebie, just to take a look at them, understand how we get to those numbers. There's so many projects that we look at that fall into this, and then many of them, as I said, when we really start to dive into the analysis, can really start to give you a little bit of an indication. Let's get over to some questions, though, and jump into stuff today. All right, so CMDR. I think Solana will lose ground to better competition. And I'm assuming you mean long-term, because I feel like short-term, and when I say short-term, meaning the next 12 months, because right now, because of the situation with Ethereum not really going out and rolling into ETH 2.0 at the scale in which we want them to do that, I think Solana is still going to be winning. And now the key there is congestion, and I get that. But that is definitely one of those for sure. Rapungus, any thoughts on Velas, a fork of Solana? We've looked at Velas a couple of times, not a big fan of that project. There are many reasons behind that one that I just don't necessarily want to get into. I don't like talking badly about any projects, so it's just not one that I'm interested in. Let's go over here. Thoughts on Matic. I like that. Matic is another hold of mine. It's a long term. It moves a little slow. It has a little bit of volatility in it, but again, Polygon just has so much going for it. They've got a lot of things going in the gaming sector. The potential for real transactions moving into layer 2. Polygon would be my winner for that one, so I'm still very, very in on that. Is DOT a good long term? I like DOT, and I'm holding it long term, but remember, DOT is got these just ridiculous yields that you can go get with DOT. I mean, some places are paying 12.5% just to park your DOT there. So even if once we start to see DOT move, and remember, if you understand Polkadot, and I would suggest doing a lot of research around these, because Polkadot is a complex ecosystem, and how they're implementing parachains and what they're doing in unison essentially with Kusama, which is a fork and a split of Polkadot. There's a lot happening there, so you need to really dive deep. It's one of the tokens that I think you have to really, if you're going to invest in it, you need to do the research. You need to get behind it and understand what's going on with Polkadot, why it's doing what it's doing, what its potential is. Watch a couple of our videos on parachains. Search Polkadot on our channel. You'll see a bunch of us talking about that, plus some of our interviews with the Polkadot teams. So anyway, I'd love to get a video on decentralized wallets. Wow, this is interesting because we are getting ready to drop one right after this show, right now. We're going to drop a Coinbase wallet video. We brought their product lead, director of product lead for Coinbase wallet on. They revealed a ton of new stuff that's coming down the pipe, but also some use cases within their wallet that I don't know that a lot of people understood. And hopefully it answers a lot of questions around that. We will look and take a look a little closer at MetaMask and Trust Wallet. We have done some, in our Diamond Circle, we have done some guides on the best wallets, DeFi and also decentralized wallets to utilize. Make sure and join the Diamond Circle because you can get access to those guides for free. Really easy. How do you think world politics will affect markets next few months? I don't like really talking about politics much, but I will say this. There's three kind of slots that could happen with what's happening in the Ukraine. Either you're going to see something change quickly and we'll see hardly no impact, or we get into kind of a ground and pound type situation where Russia just, extends this into a long, I think Afghanistan type scenario. If that occurs, I think it does have some pressure on the global stage, but I don't know that it will affect cryptocurrencies as a whole because they are becoming safe havens for a lot of countries that are starting to look and think toward safe havens for your assets. We talked about this yesterday on the Coinbase interview. It was kind of very interesting, so don't miss that interview. A little bit on Fantom. Fantom's still a big fan of that. A lot happening on the Fantom ecosystem. We've got a couple of videos on that, so definitely check it out because you get a ton of stuff. Actually, we got the Fantom guys coming on the show coming soon. So we're going to have one of their lead devs, I think, or might even one of their executives on. So stay tuned there because we do a lot of these deep dive interviews with the founders and people who really are in the know in these projects. So we're bringing Fantom on soon. Tyler, why hasn't Polygon seen the growth of other altcoins past week or so? I'm kind of in your camp in the fact that we have seen some big movements and we haven't seen Polygon. But remember, Polygon kind of marches to its own tune in terms of how it charts. And it's one that I'm always interested in watching going forward. So lots happening out there in the space right now. Make sure, watch very closely what happens this weekend. And I hate geopolitics, but I think we will have to, in the near term, be aware of what that means to not only cryptocurrencies, but general asset classes, and also just inflation, even though job numbers are up here in the US. We'll probably talk more about that. I'm gonna try to bring some guys on next week that are really good at that, understanding the ecosystem of inflation and what that could apply to both the traditional markets and also the cryptocurrency markets as well. All right, you guys are tuned in over on the podcast right now. Best thing to do is jump over here to the YouTube channel. This is a place where you're going to find all the juice, man. This is where we drop the top 20s. We show you the charts. You get to see the amplification comparisons in chart form, all that kind of cool stuff. You can only do it here on YouTube. Make sure and subscribe and like a few videos. If you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Techpath.